The video is about the Brexit election Mark II, or Jacob Rees-Mogg, and so on. Got to throw his name in there because it always gets if Rees-Mogg is mentioned. So the election gun was fired over a week, 4 weeks less 1 day until polling day. So 12th of December is going to be. It's always on a Thursday since 1918. Every Westminster election, including by-elections in the United Kingdom, has always been held on a Thursday century. So it was a Brexit election, but we had one of those before. Cast your mind back to 2017. Give me a mandate for Brexit. That was really Theresa May's PIP, a working majority. So far, Bojo's decision to go to the country early has been an inspired choice. And as I said on this channel several months ago, there were reasons why it was tempting for him to seek an early election, because obviously there's a honeymoon, things are going reasonably well, the economy is riding high, and also Labour's got that dreadful leader who's dragging them down in the polls. And if they waited till the new year, presumably Jeremy would be given the old heave-ho, and they get a more effectual leader, they could scarcely have a less effectual one. So various factors militated in favour of going early. But it's gone much better than I anticipated. The Conservative and Unionist Party up at about 40% in the opinion polls, Labour trailing in the dust down at 28%. So if you cast your mind back 2.5 years, it was something similar when Theresa May went early. But that lead was very much eroded by this splendid campaign by Jeremy Corbyn. Will the old splendid campaign by Jeremy Corbyn. Will the old magic work for him? Of course, he didn't quite pull it off. He still lost that one, even though by 2 percentage points. He's 12 percentage points behind. But will he close the gap at that time? I don't think he will. He might make some progress, but there we are. So the main development is the Brexit Party standing down. I didn't think this election was going to go as well for the Conservative Unionist Party. I thought that the Conservative Party would end up the biggest party, but without a majority and actually losing a few seats overall. Not a hugely different outlook from one we've got now. The Tories would be seen to lose the election. There was going to be some sort of coalition of confidence or supply agreement. I no longer believe that, mainly because the Brexit Party is not standing. You may recall the Brexit Party was founded only early in 2019 and then won the European election in May 2019. The Euro election the UK wasn't supposed to take part in because, of course, the UK was supposed to leave the European Union at the end of March. But because the UK is still in the European Union, it was legally obliged to hold such an election. So that's that. So Nigel Farage is leading it. Is it little more than a vehicle for his personality? Well, possibly. Now, nobody thought that the Brexit Party was going to defeat the juggernauts that are, say, the Labour Party or the Tories. But they would take a few thousand votes here and there, and then that would change the arithmetic in a few seats, and a few seats would change hands. Nigel Farage, he wrote a blistering analysis of this Brexit agreement, saying it's not the real Brexit, and the UK is going to be effectively subjugated by the EU, but not being a member of it is even worse than actually being in the EU, and blah, blah, blah. And how really it was a betrayal of the cause of Brexit and so forth, that it was almost as bad as that deal that that Boris Johnson had voted against 11 months ago. But he's changed his tune, he's toned his views down very considerably in only a fortnight. The deal wasn't good enough, and now it's somehow just about tolerable. So there are 650 constituencies in the United Kingdom, and the Brexit Party was going to contest most of them. Not the 18 or so in Northern Ireland, but almost all the ones on the mainland. And now they changed their mind. They're not going to stand against a sitting Tory MP. So that's a clear run for them. But there are other factors. The Conservative Party, as we know, didn't have a majority. Okay, though those people had the whip withdrawn, but let's assume that they still had the whip. Let's still consider to be Conservative seats. They're mostly return Conservatives. But what the Conservatives need to do to actually have a majority is to gain seats, not a huge number. 20 would do the trick. And therefore have to take them off the other parties. Labour, the Liberal Democrats, the SNP, Plaid Cymru, and I think one from the Greens. Obviously, the Speaker's seat, John Bercow, is leaving the House of Commons, being booted upstairs in the House of Lords. That was a rock-solid Conservative seat for centuries. This is part of Disraeli's Buckinghamshire constituency. But anyway, so the Tories will get that one back. So the Brexit Party, they're still going to stand in constituencies that are held by non-Tories. Therefore, make it more difficult for the Tories to gain them. Someone, I would have voted Tory, but I'm going to vote the Brexit Party. Okay, imagine that scenario. The Brexit Party candidate is not going to be there. Okay, I'll vote Tory, and then the Tories get those sort of voters and hopefully defeat Labour from a Tory perspective. So obviously some of the Brexit Party are unhappy about that. There have been ructions in this party. Imagine if you were selected as a parliamentary candidate for the Brexit Party and been campaigning vigorously for a couple of months, and they in September rightly said there's going to be an election before the year is out, and it wasn't that clear at the time. Labour was against it back at that stage. I mean, Labour has flip-flopped a couple of times this year on an early Westminster election. And then all your work is wasted if you're a Brexit candidate who's suddenly told, no, you can't stand against one of those Remain parties. Of the Liberal Democrats, their hardline Remain. Jo Swinson has made that a key plank of her campaign. The SNP, that's part of their pitch. Remain, but also they want to leave the United Kingdom. Remain in the EU, leave the UK. Hello there, Diane. Labour is Remain-ish. Negotiate a new agreement and then campaign against that very agreement. They will put it to the people in a second referendum. So there we are. So it's easy to wrong foot the Labour Party because remember, many of their voters, particularly proletarian voters in North East England, are Leavers. But some of these people would never vote for the Conservative Party, but they will vote for the Brexit Party, which is not just the Tory party in disguise, so they could see. Anyway, North East England is quite strongly Labour, and the Conservatives, if they're lucky, would take a handful of seats up there. The main challenger in most of North East England to the Labour Party is the Liberal Democrats, but some of these Labour seats are really safe as houses, and as a Brexit candidate, it's not a significant challenge. Another game changer, although this doesn't look so good for the Conservative Party, is this pact between the Liberal Democrats, the Green Party, and Plaid Cymru. Plaid Cymru means the Party of Wales in the Welsh language, and they propose They propose Wales leaving the United Kingdom, and the Principality would then seek membership of the EU. So they're obviously a sister party of the SNP. The Green Party has a solitary parliamentarian. She is Dr. Caroline Lucas, who sits for Brighton. This very quirky constituency on the southern coast of England is also the gay capital of the UK. And Brighton is synonymous with the dirty weekend going back to the time of the Prince Regent, as in going away with your paramour. But I'm not quite sure. Well, it was probably partly from that time that louche ambiance led it to be the homosexual capital of the realm. Not as a bad thing, but it's known for a large and vocal gay community. Still a minority of the city, but more so than anywhere else in the country. But a bit free-thinking and willing to buck the trend. Now, the Greens, if they're lucky, would get 2 more seats out of this pact. I don't see it myself, because in some of their target seats and their nearest target, they require sort of a 16% swing. Might just happen. Even if all the Lib Dem voters in that constituency switched to Green, it still wouldn't happen. They'd need to suck in a few more. They need a really spirited campaign. So the Liberal Democrats, they're on 12 members of Parliament. Remember, they've got several other sitting MPs who were either Labour or Conservative, like Sam Gyimah, who've come over to the Liberal Democrats, occasionally standing for the constituency they previously represented. Mostly they've done a chicken run, trying to stand someone that they think is more of a natural habitat for the Lib Dems. Hello there, straight, white, British, Protestant. Well, I can come on to the Northern Ireland scenario in a bit. Or someone like Luciana Berger represented one of the safest Labour constituencies in the kingdom, somewhere in Liverpool, I think Wavertree, and she is now seeking election in Finchley, which is a constituency in London. It's, I think, also the most Jewish constituency in the UK. She's a Jewish lady of 38, and indeed, as she pointed out, her 100-year-old grandmother lives in the constituency. But she says there's lots of anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, which is one of the reasons that she's now a Lib Dem. But the Lib Dems are a third in Finchley, so it would require a fantastic campaign for her to win. But it seems to be going very well for her, and there's a serious chance that she will overturn the Labour majority there. It's not just Jewish people who vote for her, and not all Jewish people will vote that way. There's some people who are philo-Semites or for various other reasons will vote for her. That's that. So various people standing down. Ken Clark, Father of the House, as I say, the longest continually serving member of Parliament. He's bowed out of the House of Commons. Alan Duncan, that veteran Conservative MP, was elected in 1992 for Rutland and Melton. He has also chosen to take his leave, and a few others. And obviously, Sir Lindsay Hoyle has taken the chair. He'll be the Speaker in the forthcoming Parliament, representing Chorley in Lancashire. That's a county in northwest England. And by tradition, the Liberal Democrats and the Conservative Party shall not field a candidate against him. That's a convention, it's not a law. People are permitted to stand against him. Let me see, the Greens or the Brexit Party, they might stand against him. And there's very little chance they'll win. Put it this way, Speaker's never been unseated. And that's that. It was a very safe Labour seat anyway. Anything else about those two standing against him? So Lindsay, I think he was correct not to say which way he voted in the Brexit referendum. Is he a Remainer? Is he Leaver? Now, about 8 out of 10 Labour MPs were Remainers, so that's the likelihood. But anyway, he feels that he gives them greater impartiality. He can command the respect of the House more effectively if he keeps stum on the issue of whether he cast his ballot to remain in the EU or to leave it 3.5 years ago. So, the Labour ought to be doing better because the NHS is almost screaming. About 100,000 nurses have left the NHS in the last 10 years. I don't mean retiring in the natural course of events or even other ways, sorts of attrition like just dying. Okay, they have been replaced in most cases. There's still quite a few vacancies, and they're leaving at a much higher rate than they're joining. Quite a few of them come from the European Union or other countries. Therefore, this sort of crackdown on immigration is going to hurt the NHS. And okay, say, well, we'll make exceptions for medical staff, but it just sends out the wrong message. People who would be inclined to go say, "Ooh, I don't like this." There's still a sense of animosity against immigrants. Even if I'm permitted, I'm not coming. So, and the waiting lists are getting longer. They're the longest they've been since something like 2004. For all very bad news for the Conservative Party, which has been in office since 2010. So because it's been in office for 9 years, they can't say, ooh, Labour mucked it up. It was much better under Labour, and it's got worse under the Conservatives. I say this as someone who's definitely going to vote Conservative, despite my misgivings, despite the failings of the Conservative Party, despite the mendacity of Boris Johnson, despite all of that. Because the Conservative Party, they sometimes get it right, they don't get it wrong as often as Labour or the Liberal Dems. And Labour and the Lib Dems, I mean, well, I suppose their whole philosophy is quite wrong, in my view. And just occasionally, those parties get it right, whilst I recognise that someone can be morally upstanding person, honest person, all the rest of it, and be active on one of those other parties. Anyway, so Plaid Cymru, again, they might gain 2 seats. And the Lib Dems, they're definitely going to go up. They're on 12 seats net that they won in the last general election. They've got about, 9 more MPs have defected to them. And so I think they'll actually gain 12 seats. I won't go into exactly how. Some of them, these defectors to the Lib Dems standing in their current constituency, some of them are doing a chicken run, and some of them who were not in Parliament previously, where they're doing better. So Conservatives have got 13 seats in North Britain. They're due to that they'll lose a few of those. Some of them are ultra marginal. In South Britain, I think the Conservatives will gain quite substantially. In Wales, I think the Conservatives will be pushed back a bit more, and that's that. So we live in interesting times. That's definitely the case. The SNP still doing reasonably well on roughly the same share of the vote as they were last time. Of Scotland's 59 constituencies, they hold my goodness, I hope I got this right. 37 of them, is that right? Because Labour have got 7, the Conservatives have got 12, and the Lib Dems have got, I can't even remember how many, about 5. Sorry, I haven't done the maths. Does that add up to 59? So the thing is, obviously it's a first past the post system, it's not a proportional system. There isn't an easy ratio to convert share of the vote to seats. Okay, you don't get how many votes you might deserve, you might earn according to that ratio. Okay, what's 650 members of Parliament? What's 1% of that? Okay, that's 6.5 seats. All right, so if your share of the vote went up by 1%. Would you gain 6 or 7 seats? You'd say, logically you would, but it's not like that. These things are not directly proportional. Your share of the vote might go up 1, you could even lose seats. Your share of the vote goes up by 1%, and you might gain 20 seats. So it's really how the cookie crumbles. It's all about the distribution of the seats. There's no point piling up very high majorities, as Labour does in Northern England, in somewhere like, say, Newcastle or Manchester or Scunthorpe, because that's what you need to do is gain more. Like in 2017, where Labour was already safe, it became even safer, as the late Sir Gerald Kaufman said. Or if you're the Conservative Party and you have a thumping great majority in Surrey or Sussex, and you gain even more votes, well, that doesn't actually gain you anything. The real battleground is the English Midlands. That's where elections are won or lost. Okay, Scotland, not very fertile territory for the Conservatives. All right, a baker's dozens of seats in Scotland, which is the best Tory result. Last time it was the best result for over 30 years. But that was mainly Labour territory for decades. The SNP very strong there for the last 10 years. So it's between those two, but Scotland's only got 9% of the UK population. Wales has only got 3% of the UK population. Again, been mostly Labour since the 1940s. Before that, quite liberal. Northern Ireland's only got 18 constituencies. The three major parties, the Conservative Party, the Liberal Democrats, and the Labour Party don't stand there. Labour is tilted towards Irish nationalism. Jeremy Corbyn was an outspoken admirer of the IRA in the old days, so that's that. He actually wants to kick out a bit of the UK, make it join the Republic of Ireland, even if most people they don't wish. You're inviting me into the high Tory gang. Thank you so much, straight white British Protestant. Maybe you can direct message me and spell out exactly what it means. There's the SDLP, Social Democratic and Labour Party in Northern Ireland, which is a constitutional nationalist party, and there also are Europhiles. There's the Democratic Unionist Party, the largest party over there with 10 seats, and they were that confidence and supply agreement with the Conservatives. But they're irate at the Conservatives because they didn't like this deal, which they felt left them almost outside the UK in terms of its regulatory alignment with the EU. There's the also Unionist Party, which is very weak now. It was once mighty. And there was an independent unionist woman, Lady Sylvia Herman, standing down. Sinn Féin is the main voice of nationalism, wanting to take Northern Ireland out of the UK and into the Irish Republic, and obviously have an all-Ireland state as part of the EU. But what's going to happen there? I mean, some of the unionists will gain Sylvia Herman's North Down constituency, DUP, I would expect. Couple of the seats are quite marginal. Some of the Sinn Féin held ones in the west, like Fermanagh, South Tyrone, they have a slight majority over at the Unionists. It all depends whether the Unionists can get behind a single candidate. So they might just retake that one, but don't expect major changes. Of the three constituencies in Northern Ireland, maybe 3 would change hands, but this might be within either nationalism or unionism. Let's say the SDLP retaking Foyle. But the Sinn Féin has been the major nationalist party in Northern Ireland for over 10 years. But what goes up must come down. Those are the laws of political gravity. But when does it come down? Are they the main party for 10 years or 100 years or what? They've got Michelle O'Neill, this leader, who doesn't have any murky ties to the Troubles, so you can't throw that one at her. But she might be less inspiring to some younger voters who might not be so concerned about the Troubles or identity issues. As I say, so Labour ought to be doing better, banging on about the NHS. You're learning lots, are you? But that's why another reason for the Conservatives to do it now, while Brexit is still the principal issue, while their policies move more popular. Bojo pulled it off. I didn't think he would get some sort of deal out of it. Hi there, Kirsty, out of the European Union, which was almost the same as Theresa May's deal, some really cosmetic concessions, and he had to make a few the other way. And put it to the people. And it was a do-or-die mission, as Bojo said, to deliver Brexit by the 31st of October, and it didn't happen. But I was surprised there wasn't pushback. I thought he would be hauled over the coals with that one, but that didn't transpire. There are floods as well in northern England, and Bojo's got booed for going up there. Jeremy Corbyn has taken some flack. A clergyman called him a terrorist sympathiser, and one of his cabinet colleagues, shadow cabinet colleagues, Emily Thornberry, dodging questions on would Jeremy Corbyn push the nuclear button or not. He is an indefatigable campaigner against nuclear weapons, he says he wished to retain Trident. Well, what on earth is the point of having it if you wouldn't use it if needs be? Hello there, Mrs. G. In that case, you'd get rid of it, save millions, put it into the conventional armed forces or something else. And you've just told people you won't use it, therefore it has no deterrent value. Scare off a would-be aggressor. So Labour's policy on defence is as hopeless as it was back in the 1980s. At least they were consistent. No, we wouldn't push the button, and we will get rid of nukes. And the economy is going reasonably well, small gains. So that's why the moment was propitious for the Conservatives. Reading the tea leaves, I think there'll be a narrow Conservative victory. Labour voted for this election, this constructive vote for it, because under the Fixed Terms Parliaments Act of 2010, you can't just call it like that. Previously, it was by Prime Ministerial fiat, simply advising Her Britannic Majesty to dissolve Parliament, and it was done. But the new system, the new dispensation, is they require a 2/3 majority. So much for fixed-term parliaments. It's worked once, 2015, 2017, and 2019, and both times there's been an early election because the government, they chose when the moment was right for them, and they persuaded Her Majesty's most loyal opposition to vote for it on both occasions, because it goes against the grain of the way this system works here. But also, if you're an opposition MP, why on earth would you sustain the government of another party which you loathe? You're given the opportunity to get into government now. Do it now. Don't wait a few years. But some Labour MPs are voting for Corbyn because they think it's the only way they can get rid of him. He's going to lose another election. Even then he can see sense. There are other people who say that the mass membership of Labour is so ultra-left, it's such a Corbyn cult now, that he mightn't even go. I don't think he'll be able to hang on. I think he'll see the light, or they'll elect someone who's just as bad. And again, I think that's over-optimistic from a Tory perspective. So, the Conservative manifesto is coming out in the last couple of weeks. So they've seen the Labour manifesto and been able to scrutinise that and really give them hell over it. The 4-day week, that's not practical. The NHS is screaming as it is going to make it even worse. And can you really give people all this broadband? This is an uncosted wish list. This is completely unrealistic. It's utopian socialism. They're living in fantasy land or cloud cuckoo land. That's the Tory line on this. So not so many eye-catching policies in the Liberal Democrats. Okay, they're into environmentalism. The Greens are out greening on that one. So that's what's happening so far. Going reasonably well for the Conservative Party, but there's 4 weeks to go. Anything can happen at backgammon. It could go badly for the Conservative Party. Somehow Jeremy Corbyn could electrify people. The battle of social media is crucial, and Labour won that one hands down last time. So the Conservative Party are much more savvy on that, taking that one seriously. There's some constituencies like Richmond, which Zach Goldsmith, the Conservative, retook by 45 votes last time, the second slenderest majority in the kingdom, and the Greens didn't stand last time. The Liberal Democrats, with their spirited campaign, will probably retake it. So that's that, because Zach is a Leaver standing in a very Remain constituency. There's that Heathrow issue, but he sees eye to eye with the Lib Dems on that. Sarah Olney is his Lib Dem challenger, who's trying to retake the seat for her party without the orange colour and the black bird. So there we are. It's scintillating. It's difficult to predict what's going to happen. Anything else I should be saying? Not really. There's crime to talk about. That's not looking very good for the Conservative Party. Recruit 20,000 police officers, roughly the same number, have been lost over the last 9 years. Knife crime, they could talk about that. How, education is a perennial bugbear. It's never good enough. There's so much great inflation and pointless reorganisation. All these teachers leaving the profession. Hello, Jack and Nori. So, but I'm hearing not so much about that. It's always get a bit confusing because a lot of the policies are for England only, not the United Kingdom totally. Because I am in England, I hear what's specific to England. Labour seems tribal, does it? The other thing is, well, I'm going to have to go very soon. The other thing is, there's the whole West Lothian question. Tam Deal, the Labour MP, came up with this one because he represented West Lothian. Why is it under this devolution system, an MP sitting for Scotland can vote on an England-only issue, but not vice versa? I mean, the same applies to if you're representing Northern Ireland or Wales, you can vote on issues only impacting England, but an MP for an English constituency can't vote for something which is internal to Northern Ireland or Wales. But that's the way it goes. I agree it should be sorted out, English votes for English laws. So far as I know, the Tory party still hasn't done it, despite that being the manifesto way back in 2005. You're most welcome, Diane. So please get people to subscribe, book online lessons with me in any humanities subjects, English, English as a foreign language, French, history, religious studies, politics and government, so forth, philology, critical thinking, law as well, journalism. Book a guided tour with me in London, direct message me. I need donations, so please PayPal, Patreon, donate to me, georgecallahan79 at gmail.com. Okay, goodbye everyone. Cheery bye bye. See you later.